the middle of doing something.
That's all right.
Joanne, I think, said she wasn't gonna.
Oh, okay.
All right, we're live on YouTube. Janet, I'm sending host back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mariah.
And UGTV will start recording in about 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, Karen. Hello, Brandy.
Hi.
Evening, everyone.
Time flies. Then it seems like we just did this. And next week, it's going to seem like, wow, we just did this. And we did.
Then it will be true.
Jim, how are you? Jim and James. Janet, from the staff, will it just be Gunnar and Byron? Or will we have Michael or Shayna?
No,
Just Byron and Gunnar.
and me.
Well, of course.
And Martin.
And Martin, of course, yeah. We don't have meetings without Janet, so.
It came pretty close today.
Uh-oh.
At 4:30, my keyboard and my mouth shut down.
See, in my office, everybody plays tricks on me. They'll put a piece of tape under my mouse so that it doesn't work, or they'll set up my computer so when everything is upside down. And
Wow, what a nice family.
well, it doesn't happen here at home at the home office, but it does happen at the work office sometimes.
Oh, okay.
No, they know better. The kids, yeah, they don't touch my phone, none of my stuff, because they just know if something gets missed, then I'm a bear. There's Nathan.
Nathan's on the move. All right, Mr. Chairman, in about 1 minute, we can go ahead and get started because that'll be 6 o'clock straight up.
Okay, sounds good. There's Jake.
All right, we're good to go on UGTV as well.
Great, thank you.
We're recording from UGTV.
Janet, are you ready to go?
Give me 1 second because I need to, Patrick's under a different name, so I need to move him over here.
Okay.
There we
Commissioner
go.
Miller? Oh, he's under Amy Waters.
Yeah,
I'm going to change him.
okay, so.
Commissioner Miller, maybe we'll just go ahead and start off with a slideshow of birthday photos for you. How about that? I saw some interesting ones.
Sounds perfect. It was.
Should I share my screen? Thank
Yes,
Commissioner Mueller for that. Thank Commissioner Mueller for that ballerina update.
It was very nice of my mother to have quite the fun yesterday.
I missed it, but I'm relishing in the moment right now.
Okay,
Okay,
Mr.
Janet, you
Chairman,
ready?
ready to go?
Yep, okay. Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to the March 8th meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. My name is Jeff Carson. I will be the chairman of tonight's meetings. Want to make a few introductions before we start. Karen Jones, Commissioner Karen Jones is the vice chair of tonight's meeting. Gunnar Ham, the director of Land Use and Urban Planning, is with us. Janet Parker, the executive assistant to the Department of Land Use and Urban Planning. And we have Byron Toy and Martin Tangira with the Department of Land Use and Urban Planning staff. And we have and Patrick Waters, Unified Government Legal Counsel, is also with us. And we have the following commissioners present tonight. We have Commissioner James Ernst, Commissioner Susanna Pauly, Commissioner Jake Miller, Commissioner Brandy Armstrong, Commissioner James Connolly, and Commissioner Mark Muller, and Commissioner Nathan Reasons. So with that, I will turn things over to Janet Parker, who will read the opening statement for tonight's meeting.
We would like to welcome those participating by telephone or Zoom to the meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Due to COVID-19, the members are participating remotely. Mr. Jeff Carson is serving as chairman this evening. Please note the following instructions for the meeting. If you are joining by Zoom video, please make sure you have an appropriate background and plan to stay visible during the meeting. Board members, use the raise your hand feature when you want to speak, and after Chairman Carson recognizes you, please unmute your microphone and state your name when you begin to speak. If you need to recuse or if you need a personal break, use the raise your hand feature. For those attending the meeting this evening, please use the raise your hand feature if you want to speak on an application. After Chairman Carson recognizes you, please state your name and address and make your comments. If you're having issues getting into the Zoom meeting, please email planninginfo@wycokck.org and let Secretary Parker know. Proper meeting decorum is expected of all participating in the meeting, and anyone who fails to act properly may be removed from the meeting. The city reserves the right to discontinue a meeting if any improper behavior occurs which prevents the uninterrupted conduct of business. The format for this evening's meeting is as follows. The applicant will make the opening statement explaining the proposal. The applicant will be given 15 minutes to present their case, which includes the applicant, consultants, and other members of the applicant's team. Members of the board will then address any questions they may have to the applicant. Any persons wishing to speak in favor will be recognized and allowed to do so at that time. Then those persons in opposition will be recognized to make their statements and ask questions, with each member of the public being given 5 minutes to express their opinions. Time may not be shared between speakers. A speaker's time may be extended in 5-minute intervals by 2/3 majority vote of the board. The applicant will then answer questions and make a closing statement. The public hearing portion of the meeting will then be closed, and the public will only be allowed to address the board if a question is directed to them by Chairman Carson. The staff will make their recommendation. The board will discuss the application and make their decision with a brief statement of the reason for the motion preceding the making of the motion. Motions to approve shall include the staff stipulations unless otherwise stated in the motion. Mr. Chairman, our first application tonight is appeal number 2401 for Riyadh Baghdadi for property at 927 Kansas Avenue. Mr. Chairman, this application was held over from the January meeting for the applicant and the staff to work on the final plans. At this time, does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Parker, can you allow me to share my screen? Please.
What did you ask me?
He needs permission to share his screen. I'm not sure if he's got host rights.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So who am I giving rights to do this to?
Gunner.
Oh, Gunner, sorry, Gunner. There you go. You're good now, boss.
Thank you, boss.
Okay, Mr. Baghdadi, I see your hand up and I've got you unmuted and ready to speak. Go ahead and give us your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Riyad Baghdadi, address 11661 College Boulevard, Overland Park, Kansas 66210.
Okay, want to go ahead and tell us about your project, or have you worked with the planning department on a resolution since we last spoke, or?
We did work on resolutions and we received comment from the planning department. We integrated these comments into the plans and we send them back to the city. I think there was some confusion there. I thought we have until, I didn't know that we're gonna have a deadline to submit these applications, but we submit those last week.
Okay, when you say last week, do you mean Friday?
Was it Friday? I think it was Friday or Thursday of last week.
Okay, it's my understanding those plans have not had a chance to be reviewed. Director Hand, would you like to make a comment on this file?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Commander for Planning and Urban Design. As we only received the plans last Friday, we would ask for another 30-day holdover to review with the applicant and see if there's any changes.
Mr. Baghdadi, did you hear what Director Hand said? Those plans have not had time to be reviewed since they were just submitted on Friday. So
I understand. Yes.
okay, I do want to go ahead and open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience tonight that came to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application tonight? Please raise your hand and I will call on you. I am not seeing anyone, so I will close the public portion of the meeting, go back to Director Hand for final comment before we go to a motion.
I would just say we've been working well with Mr. Baghdadi since the last holdover. There must have been a miscommunication about the plans. We believe that we can complete this project within 30 days. I believe we've had a cursory look at the plans, so we'll be in contact with the applicant about any potential changes we might need before the April hearing. I would also note that later this evening at the Planning Commission, we will ask for the same, excuse me, holdover for this related special use permit.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the director? Seeing none, I will stand for a motion. Oh, excuse me. I do have a hand up. Commissioner Connolly. Go ahead and unmute Mr. Connolly.
I'm just gonna make a motion to hold it over.
Okay, great. Well, that motion's in order. So you want to make that motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion when's the next date, Janice?
That is April the 12th.
Okay. I'll make a motion to hold over to April the 12th.
For a second. Motion made by Commissioner Connolly for a 30-day holdover, and that was seconded by Commissioner Miller. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Polly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to hold over this appeal until the April 12th meeting to allow adequate time for the staff to review the submitted plans passes. 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. And thank you again, Mr. Baghdadi, for working with the staff to get this taken care of. And we look forward to seeing you next month.
Thank you. Appreciate your help. Thank you.
You bet.
Our next appeal is number 2402 for property at 3016 Brown Avenue. At this time, does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
Mr.
This
Sorry, go ahead.
application was held over from last month's meeting because the applicant had not responded to the staff comments or submitted neighborhood meeting information.
All right, thank you. Mr. Rasali, are you in the audience tonight? If so, please raise your hand. Ram Rasali. Okay, I'm not seeing the applicant here. Do we want to just put this to the end of the agenda?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Let's just go ahead and put it at the end of the agenda. We'll come back to it.
Our next appeal is BOZA 2020-0042. Chanel Daniels for property at 3069 North 22nd Street. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
Ms. Daniels, are you in the audience?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Can you go ahead and give us your name and address, please, for the record? Tell us about your project.
Okay, my name is Chanel Daniels, address 2730 Spring Avenue, Kansas City, Kansas. Actually, my appeal is for my parents' house, and the address is 3069 North 22nd Street, Kansas City, Kansas.
Okay,
And we're actually requesting a variance for a carport. The carport is to go in between my parents' house and their backyard to their, oh yeah, I see the picture up, yeah, and
Yep.
going to the garage.
okay. And so it looks like construction's already started on that?
Yes.
Okay, were they just not aware of the process about building permits and variances?
Yeah, well, really, my dad said he talked to someone. This is when he first got the, oh gosh, the work order or the permits for the garage. And I don't know who the, what was he called, Dad? I'm sorry. The inspector that came out, I don't know who it was or the name or anything. But I guess they had talked about him building a carport and how they were going to build it, which is shown here as it was starting. And he said it wouldn't be an issue, it shouldn't be a problem. So yeah, work started on it, but years later, because you know we had to gather the money and they had to gather the money to be able to start this project.
Sure.
And so yes, we did feel that it could, but you know what? We are trying to go through the proper steps. So I read the statement saying that if you guys grant us this, that we would have to get the permit. And there was a couple other things that were listed on here, like the lighting and all of that. So we
Okay.
are aware of what we need to do.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the applicant? Okay, I'm not seeing any, excuse me, Commissioner Jones.
Ms. Daniels, I just have a quick question. Is that picture that we see, is that a recent picture?
Hold on, when was the stop work order put out? That picture was taken right after we received the stop work order, when we were asked to send those photos in. So I want to say, Daddy, do you remember the date? Do you remember when you started it, this project? I'm sorry, my father.
It's Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. They received a stop work order on 9/22/20.
Okay, so Ms. Daniels, work has essentially stopped and this is the same, is this roughly the same condition that it is in now when you look at these photographs?
Yes, this is the same. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact data when the photo.
No,
was
that's
taken.
okay. That's okay.
But-
We've got those records.
Okay.
Commissioner Jones, did you have a follow-up?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, we'll go to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Please raise your right hand and I'll call upon you. I am not seeing anyone, so we'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go back to Director Hand for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. This case, again, there was a stop work ordered last September on the carport itself. Essentially, they're seeking a second accessory structure when only one accessory structure is allowed in single-family zones. When we looked at the case, we had to look back to some conversations we've had both recently and in the last year with this commission. This does technically fit our sort of understanding of a self-imposed hardship. They are coming to us asking for forgiveness, not permission. As such, staff has recommended denial, but we did also in our staff report, if the commission wants to move forward, have some conditions of approval that we would ask that you would attach in as a part of your motion moving forward. With that, that's our recommendation.
Okay. Any questions for the director? Commissioner Jones.
You have any questions?
There had the petitioner not started that in advance, would you likely be recommending approval?
If they had come before construction, we would have reviewed the case. I think considering the circumstances with the elderly parents and the shielding of between it and the accessory structure, we would not probably have too much of a problem with this second accessory structure. Again, it's really more of a trellis, right, between the two.
And as far as you know, the petitioner did immediately stop after the work order, because it's looking like that much was done, but I just want to be sure.
That's correct, Commissioner Jones. They were compliant. We talked to the building inspections. They immediately came for an SUP as fast as they could. They've worked with us on this case. We've had no issues. They do have some neighborhood support as well that I forgot to mention.
Thank you, Gunnar.
Commissioner Connolly.
Gunner, my question is, they said they had a building permit. Is that for, did you reference that from anywhere?
I believe they had a building permit for the garage. And I think that's what she was referencing when she said the inspectors had come out.
Oh, okay.
And that had been several years, that had been several years prior.
Okay. And so what's, was it somebody called about, is that why they got the stop and cease order?
I'm not 100% sure how the stop work order was initiated originally.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks.
Commissioner Ernst.
I don't want to split hairs here, but I think I am. Does the fact that the building is not complete affect the degree to which they have created their own hardship? It would seem they acted responsibly when notified. And so there isn't a complete structure. I guess I wanted your 2 cents, Gunnar.
Yeah, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. I think that that's appropriate with the narrative that I think staff has outlined here. Again, trying to meet the strict definition that we've talked about. But you're correct. They didn't complete the building and then come back. They didn't pave the whole backyard and then come back, right? They have a stop work order issued. They were doing the work. They stopped immediately. They did everything they were told to do. And here we are.
They should all be so lucky.
That's right.
Makes that a little easier. Further questions for the director? Seeing none, I will stand for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion made to
Second.
approve by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Miller. Any discussion for a motion for approval?
I'd ask that motion include the conditions of approval outlined by staff.
Commissioner Jones,
Motion to approve, subject to staff comments and stipulations.
Commissioner Miller, is that okay with you? Just a
Perfect.
second. Thank you. Any further questions, or excuse me, I'm sorry, any discussion on the motion for approval? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve this appeal, subject to the staff's conditions, passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Daniels, and please thank your parents for being so cooperative once the problem was notified or noticed and identified.
Thank you. I will do that.
Thank you.
Our next application is BOZA 002 Gerald St. Peter for property at 11139 Hollingsworth Road. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this application?
No.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. St. Peter, I see you're in the audience and you're queued up, ready to speak. Go ahead and give us your name and address, please. Tell us about your project.
Gerald St. Peter, 15395 Briar Road, Baser, Kansas. It's a request for a variance to allow a 1,500 square foot building. The current zoning only allows 1,000 square feet as an accessory building. This is on a relatively rural property. It's on 5 acres. So we're just requesting that we can put a larger building just for more storage. It has no purpose as a business. It's a strictly residential dwelling, and it's a shop to store a boat, four-wheeler, lawnmower, those kind of things.
Okay, and do you reside at that address?
I do not. I am the builder. I'm actually constructing the property for a customer. However, we are the owners of the property currently, so I just made the petition under my own name.
Okay, and this is not part of a subdivision or anything like that. It's not part of the Northridge.
I believe it's actually got a subdivision name when it was replatted. Yeah, it is. It is the West Ridge second plat. It is lot 16.
Okay, and how does that comply with the covenants and restrictions recorded on in that West Ridge subdivision?
We were told that the developer would give us a variance or would sign off and give us approval if we got approval through you. I believe the covenants and restrictions read the same as the cities.
Okay, we'll get more information from the planning staff when we get there. Okay, anything else you want to tell us?
Not really. I mean, it's pretty well hidden. It won't cause any interference, I don't believe, with anybody's view of the property. It's relatively buried in the trees. And the customers have no intent at all of any sort of a business operation or anything like that. It's simply personal storage.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Not seeing any, we'll go to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Please raise your hand. I'm not seeing any, so we will close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for his comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Again, this is a variance for accessory structure over the square foot limits 1,500 when 1,000 is allowed. The parcel is 5 acres. Code allows for anything over a residential parcel, anything over 3 acres does not need, an accessory structure does not need to match the primary structure, which is why you have in front of you a very agricultural looking accessory structure. We did add some conditions of approval. There's been some wear and tear on this existing sidewalk on Hollingsworth. We've asked that be repaired once the construction is complete. We also asked that they follow their landscape plan. They have a screening plan to sort of hide the accessory structure a little bit behind the building, but also a little bit from some of the existing tree stands on the property. As you saw in the aerials, it was a heavily treed stand. And then also we specifically note, as we've had some issues with this in the past, restricting any business use for this accessory structure. Again, it has to meet code, which is, as he mentioned, boats and RVs and other stuff like that. So there were no NOVs on the property. We received no letters in opposition nor support, so we recommend approval.
Question for you, Gunnar. Can you speak to the height of the building? It looks like those garage doors are really tall, so I'm sure that affects the height of the building as well. Does that have any bearing for tonight's case, considering how it backs up to the Northridge subdivision, and there was a lot of discussion and things that came up when this Westridge was approved?
I don't have my staff member with me who was a case planner right now. The elevations don't have heights on them, but if you were to do the math, it looks like it's 20 some odd feet. I would potentially ask the applicant if they know what the height.
Okay, Mr. St. Peter, do you know the answer to that question?
It's 14 feet. The doors are 12 feet. The topography of the land, the top of this building will not even be above the highest point. So there's no way you could even see it from the west ridge on the what would be the south side.
Okay, and what about from the residents in the subdivision to the east?
No, you won't be able to see this building from anywhere other than the road.
All right, thank you. And Director Hand, just one more question. As to the notice area, do you know off the top of your head how many residents were noticed on this one? I saw something, I believe it was on social media, just because I think it does back up to the common area for Northridge. And was the Northridge subdivision or any of their HOA members notified of this appeal?
The property does abut, looks like maybe 10 or so single family homes in that subdivision. So they're well within 200 feet. I don't know, Ms. Parker might have the exact number that were noted.
Okay, so there were notices to Northridge,
Oh, yeah.
Northridge residents.
Absolutely.
Okay, and you received no emails or notifications of support or opposition?
Nope.
All right, thank you. That's all I have. Any other questions for the director? Seeing none, I will stand for a motion.
Move to approve subject to the stipulations in the staff report.
Second.
Second.
A motion to approve made by Commissioner Miller, subject to staff stipulations, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion on motion for approval? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Hawley,
Polly? She's saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Got it. Thank you.
reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve this appeal, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. Good luck with your project, Mr. St. Peter.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, our next appeal is BOZA 2021-003, James B. Evans, for property at 1841 North 94th Street. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this application?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Evans, are you in the audience? If you would, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Mr. Evans? James Evans, are you in the audience? I see one person named James on here. I'm going to go unmute that person. James, are you Mr. Evans?
Can you hear me?
I can now. Are you Mr. Evans?
Yeah, I thought this was being held next week and I was just convincing this meeting. But if you want to hold it now,
Okay. Well,
let's go for it.
Let's go for it. Okay, you're on the agenda, so that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead and give us your name and address and tell us what you'd like to do.
James Evans, 1841 North 94th is my home address, PO Box 12925, Kansas City, Kansas 66112 in the PO Box. Okay, I bought some property in 1841 North 94th in my house on 7.5 acres, give or take a few feet. I bought it and there you go, good shot. And what I did, this is the zoning or is this the variances?
Variance.
Okay, the variances. Okay, the shed and the house was built long before long before I was born. The house was built in 1946, I think it was, somewhere in the 40s. And the shed is pretty darn old, long before my property became part of Wyandotte County, before Wyandotte County became incorporated or dual relation with the city. So I basically, I want to keep my shed, and I want to keep my house. So, and any more questions?
Well, yeah, you need to keep going. You want to keep your house, you want to keep your shed. Is there
Yeah.
anything else that you're wanting to do?
Well, I'm also wanting to rezone. That's on another application. Because my property is a residential house on 7.5 acres, and it's a house on residential land. It was zoned agricultural back in the 1800s, 1900s, but it's not used as agricultural. It's used as residential. So, and you can see that little chunk on the lower left. That's just under 2 acres that I bought from another people. So.
Okay, and you have a carport also, is that correct?
Yeah, I got a carport. Yeah, I got a carport next to the house, just to the south of the house. And I got a shed just northwest, right there. Good job. Northeast. And then also there used to be another house right there, but it's been blown down centuries ago. So, my house, where you put the little hand, that's where the land goes up, right? The house has 1.15 acres. If that line, the eastern side, here, there you go. That's now everything to the left of that, to the west of it is 1.15 acres, and everything to the east is about 6.5 acres, under 6 acres. Little over 6 acres, and that's what I want to do is I want to eventually make a residential development, but I'm not ready for that yet. And right now I want just residential zoning because it's used residentially. I don't have a cow, a pig, a horse, no corn, no soy, nothing like that. So to have residential, I thought it was residential when I bought it because of the what do you call it, guys? Tax guys. The assessor's office, they told me that it was a residential property. And then I just found out a few months ago that it's agricultural. I bought it back in 2014 off of a guy passed away, willed it to his kids. Kids never paid taxes for a couple years. I bought it from in a distressed situation. So
Okay, and so do you have a garage also on the
No.
property?
no, there's never been a garage. All there is the carport. Oh, here we go. Yeah, see that white truck outside of there? That's my carport right there.
Right.
Okay.
And was that carport approved?
Now back in the 60s or 50s or 40s, you tell me. There's no. I mean.
Okay, so the carport was there when you purchased it in 2014.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was there in 2014. I'm assuming it's been there for many decades. So, like you say, this is the ultimate ex post facto situation. And then the lower left thing is the green shed. That right there you go. That's my shed, painted green, yeah. And that's the snow right there to keep you cold. Yeah, that's the shed and the carport.
And you're not building a garage or anything else?
No.
Okay. Okay, any questions for the applicant? We'll get some clarity here from the director, but any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, we'll open up the public portion of the meeting. Anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request, please raise your hand. Not seeing anyone, we'll close that and we will go to Director Hand for his comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. I'm going to go back to the aerial. Mr. Evans approached us a few months ago. He's looking to do an administrative lot split. And so essentially he's going to split the property right at that line that we described early. As a part of those conversations, he also requested a change of zone. That change of zone obviously creates a couple of variances when you want to create a new parcel in the now R1, or if approved later on at the City Planning Commission hearing, he's proposing to go from AG to R1. So essentially we have a setback variance that we're looking at. The house is about 12 feet or 15 feet away from the proper front property line. And so I believe the setback is 25 feet, so that's a variance. And then the second variance is to have 2 accessory structures instead of what is allowed in a future change of zone to R1 scenario, which is 1 accessory structure allowed. We did work with the applicant to see if they'd be willing to, consolidate accessory structures, things of that nature. But again, these were all here prior to him buying the property. He wanted to leave it as is, and to move forward to do that and to do the change of zone, he needs this variance. There are some old NOVs on the property, notice of violations. These were all resolved prior to Mr. Evans buying the property. He did note, and we did receive pictures from him, there was we thought a 3rd accessory structure, maybe a 2nd house back here. It's just a pile of wood right now, so it's nothing. So we confirmed that. But again, there was no opposition nor support expressed for this variance, and we recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the director?
Me?
No, not you, sir.
Oh,
Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
I think you need a motion, but I will make the motion.
Oh, I am so sorry. Yes, I need a motion. I will stand for that motion.
Move to approve subject to the stipulations and comments in the staff.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve made by Commissioner Miller, keeping me honest, and seconded by Commissioner Connolly. Any discussion on that motion we now have? Seeing none, roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Polly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve this appeal, subject to the conditions in the staff report, excuse me, passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Evans, you're all set, and good luck with your continued project.
Chairman, Chairman Carson, while we have Mr. Evans on the phone, I do want to remind him that his 2 change of zone applications will be heard next Monday, March the 15th at 6:30.
Yes, Mr. Evans, next week we'll need to see you again, sir. And then also for those of you that are waiting for the Planning Commission meeting, we are running a few minutes behind. So as soon as this meeting concludes, we will have about a 5-minute recess, and then we will convene the City Planning Commission. So thank you for your patience.
Our next appeal is BOZA 2021-004, Enrique Gomez, for property at 837 Central Avenue. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
No.
You?
Okay, Mr. Gomez, are you in the audience? Mr. Gomez. I need you to raise your hand if you are, so I can call on you. Enrique Gomez. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone, Janet, so if you please, let's go ahead and move this to the end of the agenda, and we'll call our last case, then we'll go back to those 2.
Okay. Our next case is BOZA 2021-005, John Martin, for property at 7250 State Avenue. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this application?
No.
Mr. Martin, I've got you identified, and I've got you queued up to speak. So if you would please go ahead and give us your name and address and tell us about your project here.
I'm John Martin with Christie Associates. My address is 9400 Reeves Road, Overland Park, Kansas. We are working with the Kansas City, Kansas Community College to build a student housing project. The reason we're asking for the variance is because the land slopes from north to south. It's 3 stories on the north elevation and 4 stories on the south elevation. So there was some question as to if we would meet the height restriction allowed. So we decided to file a variance to make sure that we met all those requirements.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience that came tonight to speak in favor of or in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand and I'll call on. Seeing none, we'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. This dorm that changes, the development plan for this dormitory was previously approved by the Planning Commission. They did come back, as we noted. If you remember in that development plan, we added a condition of approval that a change of zone would be required if it changed hands from the community college district to some other use. As an applicant, the community college district did not need to go through a change of zone. So it left the zoning at an R1 standard, which is, 35 feet, 2.5 stories, and we're looking at 4 stories, upwards of 60 feet. So they came back for this variance. What we did do is we essentially added a condition of approval to this BOZA case as it relates to this variance, requiring a buffer between this, what will be a multifamily development, and the single family neighborhood directly to the west. Let me just go to directly to the west here. That is the same buffer between multifamily and single family zones that we have for any other code. So we added that to this case. There are some old NOVs on this property, but they've been long since remediated. We received no letters in opposition nor support for this project. We do recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the director? Okay, seeing none, I will stand for a motion.
Move to approve, subject to the stipulations in the staff report.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Polly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve this application, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Martin, and we will be seeing you at the Planning Commission meeting here in just a few minutes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to go back to appeal number 2402, Ram Risali, for property at 3016 Brown Avenue.
Mr. Rasali, are you in the audience now? I'm still not seeing anyone. So I'm going to go ahead and see if anyone in the public tonight came to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request. Please raise your hand. This is on 3016 Brown Avenue. Is there anyone in the audience that came tonight to speak in favor of or in opposition to this case? I'm not seeing anyone, so I'm going to close that and I'm going to get comments from Director Hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. This was continued from our February agenda. Again, this is someone is moving my thing. Okay, sorry about that. This is a variance for a second accessory structure on a residentially zoned property. There is an existing detached garage on the property in the Old Northeast. They're requesting a second detached garage. If you recall at our last meeting, Mr. Rasili was in attendance and we asked him to provide that information. He contested that we had not been in contact with him since the beginning of this process. In our staff report, we included the email chain that includes his response to multiple emails from us, and none of which he replied with the information we requested. Staff recommends denial due to lack of information. And he did not provide us with a neighborhood meeting information.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the director? Seeing none, I will stand for a motion. Commissioner Ernst.
Move to deny.
I'm sorry, I've got Commissioner Ernst.
I move the Board of Zoning deny case 2402 due to the failure to meet any of the requirements and via staff recommendation.
All right.
Second.
And that motion for denial was made by Commissioner Ernst for the reasons stated and seconded by, I believe, Commissioner Pauly.
Yes.
Any discussion on motion for denial? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly,
Aye.
reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to deny this appeal due to the fact that the applicant has not responded to the required information nor held a neighborhood meeting and is not present this evening, passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
And thank you. Would you call the final case?
And our other case that we held over is BOZA 2021-004, Enrique Gomez for property at 837 Central Avenue.
Mr. Gomez, are you in the audience now? Enrique Gomez. I am not seeing them here. I'm going to go ahead and open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that came tonight to speak in favor of or in opposition to the request for 837 Central Avenue? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for his comments on this case.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've been working with Mr. Gomez on this project for quite some time. He's been a responsive applicant. I'm not 100% sure why he's not here tonight, although I do not think that should reflect on certainly staff's recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals. This case is being heard later tonight by the City Planning Commission in conjunction with the change of zone and a master plan amendment. The change of zone is proposed from R1 to C1, the master plan from urban density to commercial. This is basically a lot on Central Avenue that's never been a house, has always been a commercial property. And as such, being built so long ago on a former streetcar line, it doesn't meet any of our standards, current standards. One of those standards, if the change of zone were to move forward for commercial zoning later this evening, we would have to comply with the parking standard of 4 spaces per 1,000 square feet, which would put him about at 8 parking spaces. There is no room on this property to do any offsite parking at all, not even close. So with that in mind, we did include the conditions of approval for the BOZA case here, just as a reference as well for to those changes of zone and master plan amendment conditions of approval, which we'll discuss in greater detail later this evening. Staff, there's definitely some old NOVs on the property. And certainly quite a bit of work that Mr. Gomez needs to do to meet certain other guidelines, but we saw no letters in opposition nor support, and we do recommend approval of this parking variance.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Director Hand? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion. Commissioner Ernst.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals approve case BOZA 2021-04, subject to all staff stipulations.
Second.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Ernst, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion on the motion for approval? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Nay.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly,
Aye.
reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve this appeal with the conditions outlined in the staff report Passes 7 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you. Janet, that concludes our agenda. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, everyone, we're going to take about a 5-minute recess, and then when I return, we will convene the City Planning Commission and we'll get on with tonight's agenda. Thank you all for your patience.
Hey, what's up? We get you going, man. Oh, hell no. No. Mm-mm. Nah. Nah, hell no. In that case, just link it up directly to the computer.
Janet, are you ready to go? Thank
Mr.
you all for coming.
Parsons, just a
Yeah.
second. Could you give me a quick phone call though?
Yes. Director Hand, are you ready to go? We can get everybody back on the call, please. Commissioners, staff. Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience. I want to welcome you all to the March 8th meeting of the City Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Jeff Carson. I'm chair of tonight's meeting. I also want to introduce Commissioner Karen Jones, who is vice chair of Planning and Zoning Commission. Tonight, we have several members of the staff with us, and I want to make a few introductions. Gunnar Hand, the Director of Land Use and Urban Planning. Janet Parker, who you'll be hearing a lot of from tonight, is the Executive Assistant to the Department of Land Use and Urban Planning. Byron Toy, City Planning Commission staff, and Martin Tangira, Engineering with the Planning Department staff. We have the following commissioners on hand: Commissioner James Ernst, Commissioner James Connolly, Commissioner Susanna Pauly, Commissioner Nathan Reasons, Commissioner Mark Mueller, Commissioner Brandy Armstrong, and Commissioner Jake Miller. We're also joined tonight by Patrick Waters, the Unified Government Legal Counsel. So with that in mind, also, please listen to the cases when they are called. Ms. Parker will go ahead and read those cases. If there's anyone in the audience tonight, and I'm seeing several attendees with names I recognize that are here tonight about the Donahue project at 116th and Donahue, that project is not going to be heard tonight. That will be heard next Monday night at 7 p.m. at the City Planning Commission, that we will be holding a special meeting for several cases, and that will be one of the cases that will be heard on the 15th. So if you were here for the Donahue case this evening, that is not going to be heard. So please listen to the cases as they're reviewed tonight by Secretary Parker, so that you're not on the call needlessly for something that's not going to be heard. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before I read the statement, I have a meeting statement to read. For those that are in attendance and also for the Planning Commission, due to a publication error by the newspaper, there were 12 applications not published for the deadline for tonight's meeting. In order to continue those applications on their path, Chairman Carson called a special meeting of the City Planning Commission for Monday, March 15th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. And the following applications have submitted everything necessary to move forward for that meeting, which will be a Zoom meeting. COZ 2021-001, James Evan at 1825 North 94th Street. He also has another application 2 at 1841 North 94th Street. COZ 2021-003, Carol Blackwell at 3505 North 83rd Street. SP 2021-5, Cynthia Slavey at 7714 Roland Avenue. SP 2021-6, Amanda and Noah Taylor at 3648 North 115th Street. SP 21-7 Ryan Barrows at 4620 Mission Road. SP 2021-9 James Donovan at 1127 Southwest Boulevard. SP 2021-10 Kelly Fountain at 3440 North 131st Street. Again, these items I have just read will not be heard tonight. They will be heard on March 15th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom webinar. Mr. Chairman, as appeal number 2401 for Riyadh Baghdadi at 927 Kansas Avenue was held over from the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, the corresponding special use permit SP-2020-97 on the agenda tonight will not be heard until the April 12, 2021 meeting.
Thank you. And thank you for clarification on the time. I think I said in my earlier statement it was 7 p.m., but it will be 6:30 p.m.
Oh. We would like to welcome those participating to the meeting of the City Planning Commission. Due to COVID-19, the members are continuing to participate remotely by Zoom webinar. Mr. Jeff Carson is serving as chairman this evening. Please note the following instructions for the meeting. If you are joining by Zoom video, please make sure you have an appropriate background and plan to stay visible during the meeting. Planning Commission members, use the raise your hand feature to speak. After Chairman Carson recognizes you, unmute your microphone and please state your name when you begin to speak. If you need to recuse or if you need a personal break, use the raise your hand feature. For those in attendance, use the raise your hand feature when you want to speak on an issue. The chairman will recognize you when it is your time to speak. Unmute your microphone and state your name and address before giving your comments. If you have called in by telephone only, or if you are having trouble logging into the Zoom meeting, please email planninginfo@wicokck.org as Secretary Parker is monitoring that email. Proper meeting decorum is expected of all participating in the meeting, and anyone who fails to act properly may be removed from the meeting. The city reserves the right to discontinue a meeting if any improper behavior occurs, which prevents the uninterrupted conduct of business. The Planning Commission is a voluntary body of citizens which will review each zoning proposal. For all change of zones, special use permits, vacations, and preliminary plan reviews on tonight's agenda, the Planning Commission makes recommendations to the Unified Government Board of Commissioners, who will then make the final decisions on Thursday, March 25, 2021. For final plats and final plan reviews heard tonight, the Planning Commission's decision is final and there will not be another hearing. The format for this evening's meeting is as follows. The applicant will make the opening statement explaining the proposal. Please note that the applicant will be given 15 minutes to present their case. The 15 minutes includes the applicant, consultants, and other members of the applicant's team. Members of the Planning Commission will then address any questions they may have to the applicant. Any persons wishing to speak in favor will be called upon and allowed to do so at that time. Then those persons in opposition will be called upon and allowed to make their statements and ask questions. Please note that each member of the public who wishes to speak will be given 5 minutes to express their opinions. Time may not be shared between speakers. A speaker may request to extend their time, and the Planning Commission may, by 2/3 majority vote, extend any speaker's time in 5-minute increments. The applicant will then answer questions and make a closing statement. The public hearing portion of the meeting will be closed, and the public will only be allowed to address the commission if a question is directed to them by Chairman Carson. The Planning Commission will discuss the application and make their recommendation. If persons in opposition want to formally protest a change of zone or special use permit, a means is available by a legal protest petition, which can be obtained along with the necessary instructions by emailing the Planning and Urban Design Department at planninginfo@wycokck.org tomorrow morning. Any application receiving a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission will appear on the consent agenda of the Unified Government Board of Commissioners. Unless there is a request to remove an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the Unified Government Commission, or other interested parties, the Planning Commission's recommendation will be adopted. The consent agenda is heard at the beginning of the meeting at 7 p.m. The Planning Commission will also have a consent agenda as part of their meeting this evening. The consent agenda is the first part of the agenda, and items on the consent agenda are final plats, final plans, or special use permit renewals that have received a staff recommendation to approve. Unless there is a request to remove an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the staff, a member of the Planning Commission, or other interested parties, the staff recommendation on all of the items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Planning Commission at one time. I will read a list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the chairman will ask if there are any requests to remove items. This is your time to use the raise your hand feature, be recognized, and request that an item be removed from the consent agenda if you do not agree with the staff recommendation. The Planning Commission is required to disclose contacts about any item on the Planning Commission agenda. For each item, I will ask if any contacts have been made, and members of the commission will be asked to disclose those contacts. Please note that your opinions will be forwarded to the governing body for their consideration in making a final decision. In addition, those who receive notices for this hearing this evening will again receive them for the hearing on Thursday, March 25th, 2021. I will now read the items on the consent agenda. Consideration of the February 8, 2021 CMIP and regular City Planning Commission minutes. Plat 2021-001, Corb Maxwell with Polsonelli PC. Final plat for Homefield multifamily for 274 units on one lot at 1111 North 98th Street. It also has a corresponding plan review application, PR 2021-001. Final plan review for Homefield multifamily residential development at 1111 North 98th Street. Plat 2021-002, Andrea Wishoff with Atlas Surveyors. Final plat, Villas of Piper Valley for 24 lots at 2951 North 115th Street. Plat 2021-003, Brad Heyman with North Point Development. Final plat, Village West 3 for 223 multifamily units at 1921 North 118th Street, and the corresponding plan review application, PR 2021-003, final plan review for an apartment complex at 1921 North 118th Street. Plan review application, PR 2021-002, Alex Matthews with Great Wolf Lodge, Kansas LLC. Final plan review for facade repair for Great Wolf Lodge at 10401 Bass Pro Drive. Plan review application, PR 2021-004, John Martin with Christie Development Associates. Final plan review for KCKCC student housing at 7250 State Avenue. The items I have just read are on the consent agenda. At this time, does any member of the commission wish to disclose any contact on any of these items?
No.
Oh. Thank you,
Please.
Janet. Go ahead.
Please include the following items as part of the record for all of the items on the consent agenda. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated March 8th, 2021, the application of the documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, and the notices to property owners. The commission will vote to approve in one vote these items unless someone requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to remove an item from the consent agenda for special consideration? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience tonight that would like to remove something from the consent agenda for special consideration? Please raise your hand.
Mr. Chair, this is Director Hand, Planning and Urban Design. Staff would like to request that PR 2021-004, John Martin, Christie Development Associates be pulled.
Okay, we'll pull that one. Again, anyone in the audience? Got a hand up here, just a moment. Anthony Kinney. Please go ahead and unmute yourself. Is there a case that you would like to see pulled off the consent agenda? Mr. Kinney, I need you to unmute yourself.
I have something else going on.
Well, I'm only asking about the consent agenda, sir.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, no, I'm fine with all that.
All right, thank you. Okay, so the only thing that I've got is the PR 2021-004 being pulled off the consent agenda. Can I get a motion on the remaining items of the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda minus the one that staff wants to take off the agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve the consent agenda made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Reasons. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Polly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve the remaining items on the consent agenda with the staff conditions passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you.
Mr.
So
Chairman,
if your case was heard on the consent agenda and it was approved, it was not pulled off for any reason, you don't need to remain on the call unless you just want to remain to hear the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we will now hear the one item that was removed from the consent agenda. That's plan review application PR 2021-004. John Martin with Christie Development Associates. Final plan review for KCKCC student housing at 7250 State Avenue.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, we've got you queued up to speak. Go ahead and give us your name and address. And I know we heard from you before at the Board of Zoning Appeals, but go ahead and tell us a little bit about your project.
This is John Martin with Christian Development Associates, 9400 Reeds Road, Overland Park, Kansas. We are working with Kansas City, Kansas Community College to develop a student housing project. The college itself has a long-term improvement plan for part of the campus that is not part of our actual project. And I got a notice today from Shanna that that the staff would like us to approve the parking lot, the existing parking lot that's going to be used for this building and to bring it up to standards. That was always part of the community of college's long-term plan. They weren't going to do that until they knew for sure that this building was going to get built. So that's why it was not included in the drawings and in the specifications and contract documents that we provided to the staff. It's always been in their plan, and we will gladly take a stipulation that we will improve that parking lot to current city standards.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Martin on this case? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience that came tonight to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Please raise your hand. Michael Beach. Go ahead, unmute yourself, please. Give us your name and address, please, for the record.
Yes, thank you. Michael Beach. I represent the college at 7250 State Avenue. I just speaking in favor of what John Martin basically said and letting the board know that the community college intends to completely redo that parking lot. We are waiting until after the construction of the project is complete, because that parking lot will be used as a staging area and will contain a lot of heavy equipment. So it'll undergo additional wear and tear. But it is our intent, and within the scope of the college's master plan and project plan, to construct that parking lot back to a restored and condition.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else want to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for his comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Again, this case was heard by the Board of Zoning Appeals earlier this evening, where they were granted a height variance. We had mentioned as a part of that approval, we added a condition related to the code buffer between multifamily and single family zones. I will admit it was a staff oversight in this review. We sort of always saw that they were pointing to the north, that something parking might happen up there or whatever. But we wanted to pull this from the consent agenda to add the condition that the applicants mentioned before. I would request that the commission and staff does recommend approval, but we would ask that the commission add a condition that the parking lot directly to the north of the construction site be improved to multifamily design guidelines and code requirements post-construction of the dorm.
Thank you. Questions for Director Hand from the commission? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion.
I'm in the planning and zoning meeting.
Okay, go ahead. Need a motion.
Motion to approve, subject to staff comments and stipulations with regard to the parking lot.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve made by Commissioner Jones with the added stipulation made by Director Hand, seconded by Commissioner Mueller. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Polly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve this plan review, subject to the revised conditions, passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. This will be heard once again on
Oh,
March 25th at 7 p.m.
I'm
Yes.
sorry to interrupt you, but none of the items on the consent agenda will go before the Board of Commissioners because they're all finals.
All right, great. Thank you.
That concludes the consent agenda, and we are now going to move on to the non-consent agenda. And we have 2 items that we're going to hear together. Master Plan Amendment MPL 2021-001, Enrique Gomez with Gomez Appliances. Master Plan Amendment from Urban Density to Commercial, Citywide Master Plan at 837 Central Avenue. Change of zone application COZ-0001, Enrique Gomez with Gomez Appliances. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to C3 Commercial District for the sale of appliances at 837 Central Avenue. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated March 8, 2021, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, the notices to property owners, and the minutes from the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting earlier this evening. At this time, does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this application?
No.
No.
Okay, Mr. Gomez, are you in the audience? Enrique Gomez. If you are, please raise your hand and I'll call on you. Okay, I'm not seeing Mr. Gomez, but I do want to open up the public portion of the meeting to see if there's anyone who came tonight to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request. Is anyone here tonight to speak on behalf of 837 Central Avenue, Kansas City, Kansas? I'm not seeing anyone in the audience that came tonight to speak on this case, so I'm going to go to Director. I'm going to close the public portion of the meeting, go to Director Hand for comments on this case.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I would just say that we've worked closely with the applicant on this project. It's had quite the journey. And as I mentioned in the BOZA hearing earlier today, this is a building that was built in 1920. It's always been a commercial use. We've basically kept it legal through multiple and ongoing SUPs as those businesses has changed over time. There had been a lapse in ownership and business at this location for the last couple of years. The previous business was a car repair shop that required an SUP. Essentially, we took the opportunity with Mr. Gomez, and Mr. Gomez was willing to make this official and final so that we don't have to do SUPs for time immemorial on this property, which is why we're here today in front of, with the change of zone and the master plan amendment to address the use that this parcel has always been. And it speaks to the mixed use nature of the Central Avenue corridor, I think. There are a couple of conditions, and I'll just cycle through these as I read these off. There are a couple of conditions of approval that we added to this case, namely that the sale and servicing of the appliances all have to happen in site, and that we work with the applicant to meet as many of the commercial design guidelines as possible. Again, we mentioned at the BOZA case, this is a very constrained site. There is basically no yard, and it's all building. But there are a couple of things that we are going to work with Mr. Gomez on at the DRC level, if approved tonight, namely the idea of potentially street trees. There is you can see in some of these photos, there is a mural. Technically, that's not allowed per the sign code. And so part of the facade restoration could be the remediation of this signage as well. He could do a mural, but it can't be on the front of the building. It has to be on the side of the building. We're sort of working through all these issues with Mr. Gomez. Additionally, with some of those facade improvements, there's a condition here that we want to have changed at the hearing verbally tonight. Condition number 6 speaks specifically to adding a landscape buffer. There's no way we can get a landscape buffer in here. So we would ask that we change the language of condition number 6 to read that that screening be applied as available. Namely, we're basically going to get them to fence in that rear yard. And that's essentially all that we can do. There's a severe elevation change. You can kind of see it in this picture a little bit between the subject property and the adjacent parcel to the west. Again, there were a lot of old NOVs on this property during its previous use as a auto repair shop. Most of those have been cleaned up except for some of the ones. You can see there's still bars on the windows, and that's not allowed on the front, at least at the front, on the front windows. We received no letters in opposition nor support for this project. Staff does recommend approval, and again, it's not listed in the slides, but if you look in your staff reports, we would ask to amend condition number 6 as a part of your motion of approval to remove the landscape buffer requirement and instead require screening as appropriate or as available. Again, all of these things will work with the applicant at DRC to accomplish.
Any questions for the director?
Actually, Mr. Chair, I did forget the one condition. That's the most important condition. Mr. Gomez requested the change of zone to C3. C2 and C3 allows auto repair and heavy auto repair respectively. We would request that the zone be changed to CP1, C1 zone to match the use. What we don't want is to shoehorn in another automotive related business into this very constrained property and have to go through all these variances and other things again for commercial design guidelines that we know we cannot accomplish. And again, those at the SUP associated with those potentially with those types of usage, this would just be a bad site for that. So we would ask that the change of zone be to CP1.
Okay. Again, any questions for Director Hand? And Janet, am I correct? Then I'm going to need two motions, one for the master plan and one for change of zone.
That is correct.
All right. Commissioner Jones.
I have a question of Director Hand. So Gunnar, because the applicant is not here, has that been something that has been talked about going from C3 to C1?
Yes, we told him early on that, he picked C3 because it was the adjacent commercial parcels across the street and down the road, without knowing the intensity of use that could happen in a C3 parcel. And so we told him that, again, we can't tell him to change his application. So the application stays what his original request was. We've been working from him pretty much from the start that we were going to recommend CP1. And again, his business, his appliance repair and sale business does fit within C1 zone.
So the application stays as is, and then this amendment comes in the form of through the stipulations that you're making.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the director? Seeing none, I will stand for a motion. The first motion, Commissioner Ernst.
I'm ready for a motion.
Okay, Commissioner Ernst.
I move the Kansas City Planning Commission recommend approval of petition MPL 2021-003, subject to staff stipulations and amendments.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve the master plan made by Commissioner Ernst, subject to additional stipulations, and seconded by Commissioner Reasons. Any discussion on motion for approval for master plan? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller, Moeller,
Aye.
Polly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of the master plan amendment passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
All right, thank you. And now I will need a motion for the change of zone.
Move the Kansas City Planning Commission recommend approval of petition COZ 001, subject to staff stipulations and recommendations.
Second.
Got a motion to approve change of zone with the additional staff recommendations made by Commissioner Ernst and seconded by Commissioner Reasons. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Nay.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Polly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of the change of zone application to CP1 Plan Limited Business District and the revised conditions by the staff passes 7 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you. This will be heard once again on March 25th at 7 p.m. before the Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, we have two applications that we're going to hear together. Change of zone application COZ-0007. Ryan Kronk with KC The Yards 2 LLC. Change of zone from M3 Heavy Industrial District to TND T6 Traditional Neighborhood Design District for a mixed-use residential and commercial development at 200 South James Street. And Plat 2020-002, Ryan Kronk with KCK The Yards 2 LLC. Preliminary plat for one lot at 200 South James Street. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated March 8th, 2021, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo for the change of zone application, and the notices to property owners. At this time, does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kronk, are you in the audience or your representative? Okay, Mr. March, I've got your hand up. Are you representing Mr. Kronk on this case?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Aaron March with the Rouse Fritz Whitecost Law Firm here today on behalf of the applicant.
Great, thank you. Go ahead and give us your address, please, and then tell us about this project.
Address is 4510 Bellevue Avenue, Kansas City, Missouri, 64111. Mr. Chairman, in the audience, in attendance, if you have questions, we have representatives from the developer, Mr. Brandon Bogan and David Wingerson are here. Mr. Brad Satterwhite will be joining me making the presentation. He's the project architect with KEM Studios. And Mr. Kurt Mitzler with Talafair and Brown is our civil engineer working on this project.
I've got them queued up to speak. What about a Kelly Mattinger?
Kelly Mattinger is my brain trust, and she will be running our PowerPoint presentation. If you would give her that authority, we have a relatively short and quick presentation for you.
All right, thank you. Janet, will you handle making sure she's got that authority to do that?
I promoted her to panelist, then I can't find her. There she is. Okay, she's good to go.
Good to go? Okay, go ahead and continue on, please.
All right, Kelly, as soon as you can bring up the first slide, that would be great. While we're waiting for that slide to come up, Mr. Chairman, we are here on two applications, a change of zone from M3 heavy industrial to TND, specifically T-6, and approval of a preliminary plat. This is, I believe, the third time the Planning Commission is considering something related to the development of this parcel. The first time was a master plan amendment where you first heard about these apartment projects. That was done so that we could proceed with the TIF. And then you heard about the TIF plan and found that our project was in conformance with the master plan. Next slide, Kelly. Specifically, go back one. Specifically, we're talking about the development of a first-class apartment complex in the historic West Bottoms, 225 units, of mixture of studios, one bedroom work from home, and 2-bedroom units, 15,684 square feet of commercial space. And this is immediately to the west, across the state line from the existing Yards 1 development on the Kansas City, Missouri side, which has 232 apartments, 5,500 square feet of retail at 16th and Genesee. You'll be hearing us talk about what we hope will be the Yards 3, another apartment project immediately to the north On the Kansas side of the state line, on property directly north of this, which we would ask you to not force us to screen from this site when it comes to the stipulations and conditions. Next slide. This is an aerial of the site. You are looking at one of those wonderful pieces of property immediately adjacent to the river, but on the east side of the river, you can see the state line. You can see the very top of the existing yards building. Yards 1 and Kemper Arena is on the Missouri side to the south. In the future, yards 3 would be immediately to the north and to the top of the outlined red area. That would be our next phase of development. Next slide. This is a little bit closer in view. You can see in blue, the blue square that with the donut in the middle, that is the yards 1. The parking garage that is in Kansas City, Missouri owns that parking garage, and we have an agreement for parking for both yards 1 and yards 2. You can see from this aerial view where the levee is and where the improvements in the recreation area are intended to be built as part of the beautification on the levee. And of course, you can see the old Kemper Arena at the bottom of the screen. Next slide. This is a view looking out over the existing yards 1 with the parking garage in the background with our development parcel, the green area in the background at the middle left of the site. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen, again, the relationship between the yards 1 and where the yards 2 will be going. Next slide. This is a view looking to the east, northeast of the existing yards 1 and the parking garage. Our development parcel is immediately to the left. Next slide. When we slid over just a little bit from that parking garage, you can see the development parcel. We're looking straight down State Line Road and American Royal Drive, looking to the north, American Royal Drive, looking to the northwest at the development parcel. Next slide. Just another view of the development parcel. To the southwest, you can see the bridge that some developer has plans to turn that into a recreational area. We are not a part of that development, but as part of what could happen there and the exciting activity anticipated along the levee, we've been asked to place surface parking on the south side of our development, and it'll go generally in this area across the street from another surface parking lot. Next slide. This is just another view looking at the Rock Island Bridge, which, by the way, is actually owned by the city of Kansas City, Missouri, even though it's in Wyandotte County and spans our river on both sides. Next slide, please. This is a view of the recreation activity that's taking place. You all know the people that use their boats. The plan is to change this area into an active, very vibrant recreational area to take advantage of the river. And for that to happen, we need some convenient surface parking, and we've accommodated the request of city staff, Economic Development Department for that. Next slide. Just another view looking at the development parcel. Next slide. This is a view looking to the south from 670 into what we hope will become an exciting and vibrant area of the city, with this project being the first mover into the area. Next slide. When you approved the change of the master plan for this area, and this is that master plan that you approved, the yards 2 apartment building is the blue building in labeled number 1. The future yards 3 apartment project is immediately to the north. That will also be apartments. And the master plan included the recreation area, which is the green area with trails and access through a walkway to the river. And the triangular shaped piece of property with the little red, that's the surface parking lot that will be made available to the general public for access to both the bridge when it redevelops and also to the levee recreation area. Next slide. This is simply a closer up view of the number 1 outlined in blue. That is the yards 2. To the north is future yards 3. Number 2 outlined in orange is the levee park, and outlined in red is the Rock Island Bridge. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to our project architect, Mr. Brad Satterwhite, to walk you through the site plan and talk a little bit about architecture and building materials. Brad? Brad, you might be muted.
I've got him ready to go.
All right.
Okay. I think we're all good. Brad Satterwhite from Chem Studio, principal in charge on the project. Thanks for having us present today. On the site plan, I'll drill down a little bit closer into the plan that Mr. March just described. For orientation, state line on the top side with American Royal Drive to the north and, I'm sorry, to the east and south. The surface parking lot is adjacent to the parking lot for the now Hy-Vee Arena, which, as Mr. March said, is to service both pickup and drop off of ride share for our project, as well as serve the new levee trail that will be developed in the future, and the Rock Island Bridge development for public access up to the levee trail and to the river itself. The building is as tight as we can be to State Line Road to the east, a new private drive to the north, and then as close as we can possibly get on the west to the Kansas River. Really exciting that we can be this close to the river and have direct access to it. We then have a signature element that's a part of the project with the letter A there, which is a portal through the building that connects pedestrians, both public and private, from the Stockyards District, State Line Road, and the parking below up through the building to the levee top. That triangular area where you see the letter L is part of the private development that will include recreational activities that service both public and private, and are secondary supports to the future active trail, levee top trail. The zone to the north, which is immediately to the left, is the industrial zone that is going to ultimately be a part of future mixed use development, ultimately Yards Phase 3, and then future development by Flaherty and Collins and Mr. Haw for hotel, office, other residential in a mixed use development standpoint. I think that gives you enough of the orientation ultimately of the current development of the plan. I'm happy to add anything more if there's any other items that I missed, Aaron.
Let's just go on to the next slide and then the architecture. Just keep on moving.
Great. So the recreation area, what you see that's a part of the green is part of the private development of our parcel that will include outdoor areas for residents as well as those that are active along the river. The rest of it that's in the blue area is an additional parcel that has been planned through Catherine Carter and Sarah White and others at the UG to look at the future of access from the lower level to the upper level and include some other recreational amenities. You'll see here with some of the conceptual project renderings, we're looking at primarily masonry. We've increased our amount from our previous submission, very close to the 65% as much as we can by being architecturally sensitive to the adjacent surroundings. It's a buff masonry brick that we're looking at that picks up on the adjacent material qualities of precast and brick around the stockyards itself, and then a metal panel as well as stucco. What you're seeing here is that kind of signature portal that's taking you up from the Stockyards District up through the building in this panoramic view, giving you direct access to the river. We've also screened that surface parking with landscaping and a Corten steel element picking up on other materials used throughout the stockyards itself. Another view, straight on access coming from the east, from around the yards phase 1 and the parking lot that takes you immediately across state line to the entrance to the building, and then up to the levee top itself. Immediately to the left is the mixed use portion that includes commercial and retail with a planned restaurant on the upper level with sky deck views. And then coming around on the west side, you can start to see the green area where we're filling in between the levee slope itself to create a level plane from the levee top, relatively level plane from the levee top to what is the second story of the yards 2, so that we're activating the river and the trail as much as possible. You're looking at the yards phase 1 to the right. Yards phase 2 is, it'll have a different name, it'll have a different vibe to it, but it'll be a sister project that will utilize some of the similar elements of the design, like inset balconies. Every unit will have a balcony, but we're looking at a battleship gray metal panel, flat lock metal panel, as well as the use of some Corten steel, which is prevalent with the American Royal artist installation of the bulls, as well as at Bull Mountain. Potentially some natural wood, stucco, and buff masonry.
So under our proposed rezoning and site plans, there are 3 deviations that we're requesting that you approve on the zoning. There's 1 deviation that we're requesting you approve on the preliminary plat. The first deviation is the mixed-use design guidelines require that on-site parking be located behind the building. In this case, it's a challenge to define where the back of this building is, and there really isn't one. On the state line side, you can't get behind it. On the riverside, you can't get behind it because of the levee. So it's just a unique site. It makes it challenging to satisfy this requirement. And furthermore, in the little triangular parking that we're talking about, we wanted that to be sited as close as possible to where people would then access the levee. That location was the location requested by staff, and we were happy to accommodate them. So we would ask that you approve that deviation. The second deviation deals with the setback requirement that we have. 75% of all buildings should have a 0-foot setback. Again, for the same reasons, it's a bit of a challenge to hit those setbacks, the unique shape of the site, the existence of state line where it is, the sidewalks. We just can't go very far in this building envelope over and above what we have done. And we think we have done a great job maximizing and optimizing the site layout. Our final deviation request on the rezoning case is the requirement that we have 65% of our building facades be of masonry materials. We are at 60% of the facade, and the balance is of materials that really play homage to the area that we're building within. We think that it works phenomenally well with a little bit with more of the other materials than masonry and brick, and they will be of high quality. We don't need to worry about maintenance on them. So in addition to the 3 deviations that we would ask you approve, and we have reviewed this with staff, we would ask that condition number 7 be removed. The first sentence kind of sums it up. 0 street parking spaces are required. So if we don't have to have parking under the zoning district, then the approval of a parking agreement is kind of in conflict. Yet we are providing parking in the parking garage that we currently use in Kansas City, Missouri. And I think you'll hear from staff that they agree with the removal of condition number 7 as really being kind of moot. So bottom line, we agree with the staff report and the 12 conditions on the rezoning, with condition 7 being removed, and we ask that you approve the 3 deviations. As to the plat, next slide, Kelly. We are creating one plat for this lot, and we ask that you approve this deviation. The landscaping requirement between a residential lot and an industrial lot would make an awful lot of sense. But to have landscaping between a residential lot and what has been master planned for mixed use development and what we believe is going to be the next phase of the yards, we'd hate to put something in and only to have it tear out. So we would ask that you give us a deviation from this requirement. And with that, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, I and everyone on our team are happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Not seeing any. I'll go to the public. Anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for his comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. I think they did a really good job of both presenting the case, but also sort of outlining the history of this project. And here, let me share my screen really quick. All right, can everybody see my screen? We've been working closely with the applicant on this project as it relates to all the various deviations, which we are in support of. We've worked closely with the applicant as it relates to the levee enhancement trail project. There were some stormwater issues that we worked through and coordinated with the levee raise and things of that nature. We think that this project is indicative of the catalytic transformation of the Kansas River, specifically as it relates to the Rock Island Bridge project adjacent to it, but also to the emerging nascent vision that's coming out of our Armourdale area master plan process as well, specifically the portion of that master plan area that is the Kansas portion of the historic West Bottoms, which this project is within. Again, for that reason and others, we recommend approval of both.
Questions for the director?
I would add, Mr. Chair, that we do also agree with the striking of number 7. We had talked about from day one that they had parking secured in the garage. We had always sort of included this condition just as a follow-up to conversations we've had with the applicants, realizing after we had submitted it that there is actually no requirement for parking in the T6 zone, and so they don't technically have to give us the shared parking agreement showing that they have those spaces reserved in the existing parking lot on the Kansas City, Missouri side of state line.
Okay, so we will need 2 motions. The first one will be on change of zone. The second will be on the plat. Any discussion, any questions? If not, I'll stand for those motions.
Motion to approve change of zone subject to staff stipulations.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Pauly and seconded by Commissioner Reasons. Any discussion on that motion for approval on change of zone? Seeing none, roll call please, Janet.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, a motion to recommend approval of the change of zone application subject to the revised conditions passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. I will now entertain a motion on the plat.
Motion to approve the plat, subject to staff comments and stipulations.
Second.
Motion to approve the plat made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Reasons. Any discussion on motion to approve the plat? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Polly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Chairman, that motion to approve the plat, subject to the revised conditions, passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. Both of these motions will be heard. This project will be heard again on March 25th at 7 p.m. before the Board of County Commissioners. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Our next application is special use permit SU 20-00097, Cavern Mills. Special use permit for a transitional group home at 933 Quindaro Boulevard. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated March 8, 2021, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mills or Ms. Mills, Cabrin Mills, please raise your hand. Or is there someone representing Cabrin Mills on this case? I'm not seeing anyone. Janet, do you see the applicant here? Okay.
No, I
I'm
do
going to go
not.
ahead. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that came tonight to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Please raise your hand. This is on 933 Quindaro. Okay, I'm not
Chairman?
seeing anyone. I'm sorry.
Do you want to move this to, there's someone that did raise their hand, I'm sorry.
Here we go. TJ Jones, I've got you queued up to speak. Go ahead and give us your name and address, please.
My name is TJ Jones. I'm at 924 Cleveland, Kansas City, Kansas. And I gotta be truthful, I somewhat kind of dozed off. We just finally heard this. But anyway, what I wanted to know was I didn't hear the presenter.
Well, the presenter did not show, but we wanted to make sure that if anybody came tonight to speak about this project, if there was opposition or support or people that wanted more information, that we try to get that for them. Is that what you're here for tonight?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Did you have anything you wanted to say about the project, about what you know about it, or were you here to get more information?
I'm here to get more information. I do know the project's been put off for about 3 times already, or 2 times. And I've sat back and watched and listened. But what I would like to know from the certain people, because I did try to contact them and I was not able to contact them, by email, by whatever means, I even went by the house where the letter came from,
Okay.
I have great admiration for them, the Healing Hands, and for the at-risk children in our community, and I believe in that. But I wanted to hear more information before I decided to sign on to it, because I'm only about 100 yards away from this house,
Sure. I completely understand that. And I was looking forward to getting more information too. So we're gonna go to the director. We'll see if we can get some answers. And my personal apologies that we're not more entertaining and that we caused you to doze off. But we'll hopefully we'll try to hold your attention for a little while.
Well, thank you.
You bet you. I've got an entertaining group. We'll just have to get a little bit more out of them.
There you
Okay,
go.
I'm gonna, anyone else in the audience that wanted to speak regarding this application at 933 Quindaro? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand and we'll get some information.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Again, this case is for a group home for up to 12 people. It's currently zoned C3. In a C3 zone, you can have a single family or a duplex, but you can't have a single family use. So that's not an issue for us here. The building does have quite a long history of NOVs that the applicant has said that they have remediated as a part of this project. Essentially, it's an old abandoned house that they want to fix up. The applicant with Sowers Investments is buying and fixing up the property, and their plan is to lease it to Casey Helping Hands that will run the group home. We did add some conditions of approval. No signage is allowed. We were requesting 4 off-street parking spaces maximum at the site. We had thus far received no letters of support nor opposition. I would also note that this case is in the environs of a historic district and landmark, so it will have to go through an environs review as a part of its building permit process if it were to move forward. We were gonna recommend approval, but considering the absence of the applicant as well as the presence of a member of the public to express their comments tonight, I think I would recommend we hold over for 30 days and we can reach out to the applicant. A little bit earlier, we did talk about the public meeting. Again, under the pandemic, we do have a couple options that we've added for public meetings. They chose to send out a letter that said email or contact us. So the fact that the member of the public who showed up tonight said they tried to reach out to them and got no response is a little disconcerting. So we would recommend 30-day holdover.
Any questions for Director Hand? I would agree with your assessment. Anything like this, typically when we have neighbors that don't have answers, that's not a good thing. So questions for the director, comments? Seeing none, I will stand for a motion.
I make a motion to hold over for 30 days to the next meeting.
Second.
And Janet, that meeting date would be what?
April the 12th?
April the 12th. And was that second made by Commissioner Armstrong?
Karen
No,
Jones.
Commissioner Jones? Okay. So motion made for 30-day holdover by Commissioner Reason, seconded by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion on motion to hold over? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Conley?
Aye.
Ernst?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Moeller?
Aye.
Pauly?
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to hold over this application until the April 12th meeting passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, our last item on, well, no, our second to last item on the agenda is special use permit application SP-2020-51 Diego Toto with XM Automotive. Renewal of a special use permit for an automotive repair business at 4439 Shawnee Drive. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated March 8, 2021, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. This time, does any member of the board have any contacts disclosed with regard to this case?
No.
No.
Mr. Chairman, this application was held over from the January meeting.
Okay. Mr. Toto, are you in the audience? or the representative for Mr. Toto? Is there anyone here to represent the applicant this evening? Okay, unfortunately, I'm not seeing anyone. So I am going to go ahead and open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone here tonight that came to speak in favor or in opposition to this application? Please raise your hand. Not seeing anyone that wants to speak. We'll go ahead and close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for his comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. After our January hearing, we had a meeting with the applicant and the property owner on this specific case. And we had a pretty extensive conversation about what would be needed. If you recall, they had not requested a variance because they weren't 100% sure in January what they would need to seek a variance for, as we were working through the site plan and some of the other approvals that are a part of the SUP required for automobile repair, heavy automobile repair. Since that time, basically the way that they left it at the end of the meeting is the property owner said, well, we have to go back and talk to see which variances what variances we should seek, as well as if we want to make this investment for this property. I go to this is the property. Mr. Toto is in basically the last bay, 2 bays of this very large building. And when they left the meeting, the property owner said basically they had to make a decision whether they wanted to move forward or not. We have had radio silence since that meeting. As such, we recommend denial.
Any questions for the director?
Well, if I may, Mr. Chair, I would just add very quickly, this is one of those tough situations where the applicant, the business owner, is pretty much subject to his property owner, who did not want to support the efforts to bring this up to code.
These are difficult ones for sure. Further questions for Director Hand? And I'm sorry, Gunnar, was this one held over once before? It was it?
No, I think it just got the 60 days.
Okay, all right, thank you.
We had pushed it back internally, I think 3 times before we got them in to come in January.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any questions for the director? If not, I'll stand for a motion.
I move the Kansas City Planning Commission recommend denial of petition SP 2019-51 due to failure to communicate or comply with the requirements set forth by staff.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Ernst for denial for a failure to adhere to planning staff requirements and requests, and seconded by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion on motion for denial?
I think staff went above and beyond attempting to get this through on a number of levels, and I appreciate that, but there comes a point where you just say no more.
Understood. Any further discussion on motion for denial? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend denial of this special use permit due to failure to communicate or comply with the requirements and requests set forth by staff passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. This will be heard once again before the Board of Commissioners on March 25th at 7 p.m. Janet, I believe that concludes our agenda, correct? We do
Mr.
have,
Chairman, I have one more item on the agenda.
is that the calendar?
Yes, we
Okay.
need to approve the 2021 meeting calendars for the Board of Zoning Appeals, City Planning Commission, and Landmarks Commission.
And we approved the Landmarks Commission also?
Yeah, we approved them all every year.
Okay. Any questions about the schedule? It's kind of really not up for negotiation. It's just kind of hate to say rubber stamp, but I need a rubber stamp. Commissioner Polly's laughing at me and shaking her head, but you understand what I'm saying? So I'm sorry, I do have a question from the audience. I have Kim. Kim, did you want to speak?
Yes. I have a question. I'm a realtor and my client bought a home at 1730 New Jersey Avenue several years ago. It was listed as residential improvement. He brought it as a tax sale. He put over $100,000 into rehabbing this home. We listed it. We have it under contract. And lo and behold, the appraiser said that it's zoned as CO. It's all residential in there, and there's 7 little plots there that all have homes, other than 2 that are just vacant lots. They're all single family residential, but the CO zoning states that you can't have a single family home. They're all single family homes.
Well, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to help you with that this evening at this meeting, but if you want to follow up with staff tomorrow, I'm sure they can assist you in.
I've tried calling, I've called, I emailed.
Well, why don't you send an email to Janet? Would you give us your email and then somebody will reach out to you?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's jparker@wycokck.org.
jparker@wykokck.org.
Okay. I did email a zoning or planning commission person last week, and I still haven't heard back. He's only there on Wednesdays, I guess, in the office.
Okay, just go ahead and reach out to Ms. Parker and somebody will reach out to you and we'll get you on the right path to see what needs to be done on this one.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Mueller.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to include the next Monday's 15th meeting on the approval of the calendar?
No, because that's a special meeting that was called.
Okay. All right. Good enough. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I just need to get a motion on the approval of the calendar.
Motion to approve the calendar.
Second.
Motion to approve the calendar made by Commissioner Reason, seconded by Commissioner Polly. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
I don't see.
Aye.
Connell. Okay, there we go.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller, Moeller,
Aye.
Polly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve the 2021 calendar passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Okay, so before I conclude, I just want to include a reminder, since we are using Zoom, it's a great technology, and when it works, it's great. But we also have to be mindful of ourselves when we're on Zoom. This is basically a public meeting. So when we took the break earlier today, just make sure that you stop your cameras and mute your microphones so that we don't hear inappropriate language, arguments among spouses, dogs barking, and all these kinds of things. Because remember, these things are being recorded and the public sees us. So we want to make sure that we put on a professional appearance. So anything else, Director Hand?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I apologize. I meant to mention it earlier. When we recommended approval of the T&D zone for the Yards 2 project, part of the T&D zone is to create a review board for that project. Basically, the change of zone is the preliminary development plan. This review board acts as the final development plan. They go over all the final plans. So what we need is the Planning Commission to nominate 2 members to join myself, the Director of Planning, staff, and the applicant to go over those final plans when they come through.
And you need somebody from this group?
Yep, I need 2 planning commissioners.
Okay.
I'd be willing to volunteer.
Okay, Commissioner Reasons would like to volunteer. Is there another volunteer? And then do we need to approve? Do we need to, Brandy, is that you?
Yeah, I'll do it if nobody else wants to.
Okay, and anyone else want to? And Gunnar, do we need to approve Brandy and Nathan, or since they sacrificed themselves? I mean, volunteered themselves?
Um,
Chairman
I don't know.
Carson, you can just appoint them.
I think you can just appoint them.
I can, oh, I thought you said disappoint them. I was gonna say, what?
You've
I'm
already
gonna
done that
disappoint you
publicly.
both, and I'm not accepting either one of your names. But yes, okay, I will appoint Commissioner Reasons and Commissioner Armstrong. So,
Thank you.
thank you. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, thank you, folks. We'll see you next Monday.
I
All
need-
right, bye-bye.
I need
Thanks
to
again,
know-
everyone. What,
Need
Janet?
somebody to let me know if they're gonna be at the meeting next week.
Okay, if you're not gonna be at the meeting, let Janet know. Otherwise, we'll see all of you back here next week.
I should be there, Janet. This is Nathan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brandy will be there.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Will not be there.
Will not? Commissioner Connolly will not be there?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And I wouldn't miss it, so I'll be there.
I should be there, Janet.
All right,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. Thank you all. We'll see you next week.
Hey, everybody.
Bye.
Mr. Chairman, you have a minute?
Sure.
So I've been reading all these things about how what people are looking for in homes are changing after or during this experience. Can you give me some clue of what you're seeing and what people are going for or eschewing that they might have gone with 4 or 5 years ago?
Well, we're seeing a lot more requests for flexible space within a home for home offices, that kind of thing, because of so many people working from home. So that seems to be more and more something that we get more the requests for. It's some sort of bonus type of space because people aren't just content to take a desk in the corner anymore. Also seeing a lot of multi-generational housing. I think a lot of people, because of the job market, they're looking to scale back, and you've got kind of consolidation of households where mom and dad are moving in with the kids, that kind of thing, trying to save on resources. And so multi-generational housing and flexible office space seems to be kind of two of the biggest things that have come about. Really, well, multi-generational has been around for a couple of years, but flex space has really been new just because of the pandemic. And then affordable housing just is always on the top of the list because affordable housing anymore is becoming a unicorn. Just got a text message in the chat, or got a text message during the meeting that a house that went on the market in Piper that was $279,000 just sold for $330,000. I had 13 offers, and I said, "Do you think it's going to appraise?" And they said, "It's not going to matter. The person waived everything and decided to pay cash, so there's not even going to be an appraisal on it."
Do you see ranches having a decidedly increased value, or is that just my imagination and hope?
Well, I wouldn't say I've seen them go up in value. Ranches always seem to maintain their value because they appeal to the broadest range of buyers. I mean, you get everybody with a ranch that you don't get with a split level or a 2-story. And, unfortunately, I live in a 2-story, and those they're not, I won't say they're becoming dinosaurs, but they were all the rage in the 90s and early 200s. And now everybody wants reverse story and a halves, ranches. They want main level living.
Oh, so rub your magic ball for a minute. Do you think ranches will appreciate in value, say, more than a multi-story unit?
It just depends on the house, the location, and the condition. I mean, this market's so crazy. I mean, it's almost stupid crazy with what we're seeing. I mean, houses on the market for, like I said, 24 hours and 13 offers and $60,000 above list price. That's, what is that, 20%, a little over 20% on that one particular house I just spoke to you about. And was there anything special about it? No. In that neighborhood, I built out of probably 80 some odd houses. I would say not quite half of them are that exact same floor plan. If anything, it's going to cause everybody else to probably want to sell theirs. So,
Well, but do you see this changing with the increased price of lumber and the lack of market? Do you see this changing, say, in the next 12 months?
I think people that are in larger homes like myself, that are two-story homes, ranches are going to be more desirable in terms of where we want to go, because if we're going to scale down, so not smaller ranches, but ranch style homes in general are going to be the house that they're going to be the new house, because that's what everybody's looking for. And we have so many people, again, like myself, that are holding onto their homes because what it would cost for me to build something that's half the size of what I already have, I'm going to spend more money than what I'm selling my current house. So I'm going to sell my big house for X amount of dollars. If I go to build one that is maybe not necessarily half the size, but certainly smaller than what I have in a one level home, it's going to be substantially more than what I just sold the bigger house for. And that's a tough pill to swallow.
But you don't see, or no, I should say, do you see this light, hot market changing in the next 12 months?
No, not at all, because the inventory is going to take too long to correct. Lumber prices and things like that are, and really, I say lumber, all the material prices are just, everything's going up.
And then you've got availability. I mean, so I looked into swimming pool heaters the other day, and they said, Mark, you order what we've got in the warehouse right now, or you're going to pay $200 extra to ship it, and you're looking at 120 days out. Well, I mean, we haven't even started our season yet, and I'm not sure I know what to tell people. I just can't get the product.
Right. And my new TV's that I bought a week ago, 10 days ago, isn't scheduled to come in until June 23rd. And the Furniture Mart says, Mr. Carson, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's advertised for sale, and we had one or two of them, but we're dependent upon China to get it, and that's where it's coming from, and that we'll get it when we get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I've got a son who's getting ready to build a house, so these numbers on materials are really concerning. I've got a daughter who owns a house in Mission, and she's sitting in a great spot in a little ranch style house over there. But just to give you an idea, typically in a normal market, and Kansas City market or our association goes all the way down to Fort Scott as far as territory. We go all the way up to St. Joe, north and south. We go all the way out to Oak Grove, Odessa to the east, and we go all the way out to Tonganoxie to the west. In a balanced market, we should have between 20 and 24,000 houses on the market to cover that geography. We have about 5,200.
Wow.
So there was an instance last week, matter of fact, there was a complaint filed on it. There was a house that was put on the market, and the agent deliberately priced it $50,000 below market to create a frenzy. And there were 130 showings in 48 hours. Wow. And it sold for above that price. The problem that we had was with COVID, we don't allow overlapping showing, but you can't show a house 130 times in 48 hours without multiple buyers and multiple agents all being in the same house at the same time, which creates an unsafe environment in the COVID environment that we're working in. So that's why the complaint was made. But the agent freely admitted that he priced it low to create a feeding frenzy on it and drive the offers up.
Right.
So,
well, I've been in the pool business for 40 years now, and it used to be, you'd lose more than half of the people that wanted them. And then you had the whole, it's too much pain in the ass and all that stuff. Are you seeing that changing at all?
On pools?
On homes that have existing pools, that you're getting
it's funny you bring that up, because there was a time when a house that had a pool really, the pool wasn't a bonus. It was almost a distraction, because you had people that didn't want the pool, and
75% of people. Yep.
Right, and even though it had it, and you're really only paying a fraction of what it cost to install that pool on the resale side, people just didn't want it, so they just moved on to another house. But then all of a sudden, pools made a comeback, and everybody wanted a house with a pool. And then this year, houses with pools really took a push, because people couldn't go to public pools and splash parks and things like that. So everybody, the house that had a pool was the popular place to be.
Well, and they're 2 years out. If you wanted one right now, you won the lottery and said, I want a pool. you'd be lucky to have it done and swimming in 2 years because of all the
Really?
things